We back. It's the Boxing Clinic. We going live once again. Had time today. If you're wondering, just a nice little robe I got from Christmas. Very comfortable. But we back talking some boxing. Of course, we back in the building. The Boxing Clinic. Your boy CJ Goodfella talking about Gennady Golovkin. We be getting a lot of questions about Golovkin. Mainly because there's been a lot of shaking of the WBC rankings. There's been a lot of questions going around about why is there more discussion about Jermall Charlo fighting Gennady Golovkin than potentially if Canelo Alvarez was to beat Golovkin about the belt. So we're just going to have an open discussion. Got questions, I answer them as quick as possible. But the whole situation with Gennady Golovkin is like this. We know he's about 35, about to turn 36 in April. And we know when he got to the division, it was very naked. It was empty. Middleweight had been, pretty much quiet since the Jermaine Taylor and B-Hop fight. Obviously Kelly Pavlik took the belt from Jermaine, who in turn, Pavlik went up to 168, came back down to 160 after getting whooped by Bernard, and came back and got whooped by Martinez, and then Martinez was fighting any and everybody. Chavez Jr. ended his career by coming in as a cruiserweight and messing his knee up. And then, however, Golovkin came along. So, Jose said it's Canelo's time. But Golovkin came along, and now he's reigning. And the thing about it was, guys like me and other guys were saying, well, he's not beating nobody because the division sucked. And that wasn't his fault, but now his division is on and cracking. And it's funny, because about 3 years later, before that, wasn't nobody in there. Now it's crowded. You got people that can come down like Ebanks Jr. and Caleb Plant. You got guys that already came back down like Robert Brandt, who should have never went up to 168. You got guys that can come up like Lara Swift and the other Charlo. So he's in a good position to make a lot of money at 160, or he's in a good position to get his belt and retire, or he's in a good position to move up. I mean, he controls his own destiny right now at the 160-pound division. He really does. He can do whatever he wants to do. I mean, he's in the cockpit. He's in the cock seat. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, what he do with Canelo is up to him. If he gets the knockout, then he'll be the most dominant, seen as the most dominant fighter in the game right now. You'll see a lot of people pushing Crawford off that #1 spot because Crawford's not, we already talked about that earlier, Crawford's not going to get those fights that he wants. And not because I'm messing, but skill-wise, Canelo nice with it, man. I thought he beat Triple G the first time, but I won't argue with nobody. I mean, that's a meaningless debate. But yeah, that's all right. We're gonna do two scenarios, okay? And we're gonna let y'all know this: Canelo is not fighting for the WBC belt. That's just not gonna happen. Him and the WBC is beefing, and here's the backstory because I got time today. The backstory is this with the WBC. All right, the reason Canelo dropped the belt, according to Golden Boy and Canelo, is this: they was in litigation, or they was going through a lawsuit with All Star Boxing. We know All Star Boxing used to promote Canelo in Mexico. Golden Boy stole them from All Star Boxing. They ended up suing Canelo for like $15-20 million. But while they was in the middle of a lawsuit, the WBC forced a purse bid to go down for, Golovkin and Canelo. They basically wanted to force that fight to happen. So Canelo, told them, he must have called Mauricio Sulaiman Jr. was like, look here, man, I'm dealing with a lawsuit, man, because you knock it off, and then after the lawsuit, we'll negotiate on my terms. Mauricio Sulaiman Jr. probably said no. Canelo was like, all right, he dropped the belt. He's going to get stripped of it anyway. He dropped it, gave it to Triple G. In all reality, he should have just got stripped of the belt, but he dropped it. He know he was going to come back and fight Triple G anyway. So basically, that's the reason why he dropped the belt. It wasn't because in particular he was scared. He had a lot going on in his life, and he lost $15 to $20 million to All-Star Boxing. Hopefully, Golden Boy helped him pay for that. So that's what that was. But now, Canelo has beef with the WBC. After all the WBC had done for him, they sanctioned the Amir Khan fight at 155. They gave him his first belt versus Matthew Hatton, Ricky Hatton's little brother, who was a 147-pounder. So they did a lot for Canelo, and I'm pretty sure they like, you know what, F him. But now they want to be back in his good graces. They had the WBC and the WBA convention around the same time. Canelo chose to go to the WBA convention. Triple G decided to go to the WBC convention. Went to Mexico, Children's Hospital, bringing games and toys. So he's really trying to win over the Mexican crowd. All right. So that brings me to the conclusion of this. Win, lose, or draw, Canelo, Triple G will still have the WBC belt. So that's why you hear most people talking about Jermall Charlo and Triple G. Now, as you already know, Jermall Charlo is probably going to fight Hugo Centennial Jr. for the interim title belt. That means that's a champion in waiting until Gennady Golovkin has got done with Canelo and all the rest of his obligations he might have to deal with. All right. So that leaves us here with Triple G. I mean, at that point, if he loses to Gennady Golovkin, if he loses to Canelo Alvarez, excuse me, convincingly knocked out, or he really just get outboxed and outpointed, we know Canelo's not going to go for the rubber match right now. So, oh yeah, there we go, Dredd. But, he says he wasn't going to fight Triple G anyway. Triple G promoter is getting dragged in negotiations. Yeah, he wasn't going to fight Triple G. I'll get into that in a minute. Shout out to Rashid Towns. But, he now will leave him. If let's say he gets beat decisively by Canelo, that's where we're at. Cool. What does he want to do? Does the WBC make him face his mandatory in Canelo Alvarez? What's going on? I'm not gonna say her name because that's funny as fuck. What's popping? Does the WBC force him to face Jermall Charlo after getting beat decisively or bad and knocked out by Canelo? Will the IBF force Kell Brook to come back down and fight Earl Spence with no excuses? So it depends. The WBC is in love with Gennady Golovkin. They want to be in love with Canelo as well. They want to be with the winner. But obviously they pissed off Canelo Alvarez. So the best situation for them is for Golovkin to win. But we in this situation right now if Golovkin loses. If he loses bad decisively, I can see Golovkin hanging it up. I don't see him willingly fighting Jermall Charlo. And I heard 2 interviews that Dante's Boxing Nation had with Abel Sanchez, which is a regular on the show. And they don't think Jermall Charlo is worthy of fighting Gennady Golovkin. So maybe they get out of that, or maybe Golovkin moves up after if he loses to Canelo, convincingly, and if he takes some damage there. But I don't see him moving up though, because moving up is less money and it's dangerous unless Chris Eubanks Jr. wins the tournament, and then that's a lucrative fight still. And will a loss be that detrimental to Gennady Golovkin? Will it hurt him mentally? Obviously, it would hurt his popularity because we know how fans are about losses in boxing, which is crazy. A loss is a loss. You're not going to come in and train 10 to 12 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. What up, CMD Boxing Reports? I'm going to get to that right in a minute. You're not going to train all that time and peak right on the Saturday you're going to fight. Sometimes you might be sluggish. You might not, you never know. You might not have ate at the right time. You might be sick. You might not have drunk enough water, trying to dehydrating yourself to make weight. Shit happens, So that's why I really don't take an L into large consideration unless he take a lot of damage. Like a one-punch Arthur Spilker Wilder knockout when he came back versus a tough fight. That was a mistake. But, if he loses, I don't know where he goes from there. Does he face Jermall Charlo? And like CMD Boxing said, CMD Boxing Report says, he don't think Charlo's ready. And obviously, I second that. I don't think he's ready right now. I think 2 more fights at 160. I think Hugo Centennial Jr. is not the ideal fight for him to be fighting a true heavy middleweight in Gennady Golovkin. But Centennial Jr. is a tall guy, rangy guy. The styles just don't mesh. So, why is the super middleweight only hosted Super 6? I'll get to that question in a minute. I answered that the other day. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. But the only reason why, he needs 2 more fights. Put it to you that way, CMD. He needs 2 more fights, and I think he needs a fight versus a guy who has the style of Golovkin, an aggressive guy. Maybe a Sergey Shinchenko would be a good fight. Somebody mentioned that earlier. But Hugo Centennial Jr., that's a good fight. He got power. So, but Jermall Charlo is a guy that really can go to 168 and be effective. He beefed out with Jesse Hart a couple months ago, so he can be effective. But 2 or 3 more fights, but it might line up that way. We know Triple G love to fight 3 or 4 times a year. Canelo is really halting his career. We're doing that. But let's say he gets the Hugo Centennial Jr. fight in January. He can come back, spring, summertime, get a fight in. And Golovkin and him can fight in the fall. So he can get those 2 fights in and that experience in real quick. But let's go to the other side of it. What if Triple G dog walks Canelo? Okay. I believe this is what happened. If Triple G beats Canelo, dog walks him, beats him convincingly, whatever, beats him by inch or a mile, this is what's going to go down. He's going to pay Jermall Charlo step-aside money. Now, Al Heyman is going to play hard to get. He's going to get some Elder Alvarez step-aside, Bermane Stavern type of step-aside money. he's going to get $500,000. That's what Al Haymon's going to run the price up on that. They're going to have to pay this man $500K at least minimum around that area to step aside. And what you stepping aside to do is make history. So Jermall Charlo is going to get paid handsomely to step aside to make history, and for Gennady Golovkin to fight Billy Joe Saunders and get the last belt. Now, if he gets that last belt versus Billy Joe Saunders, which isn't a give-me fight at this point, it's already set up for that fight to go down in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan almost had, they had a lot of people, I can't remember the number, watching him and Danny Jacobs. It was a record number or something like that in Kazakhstan. So the money is already there. People going to show up for Triple G in Kazakhstan versus Billy Joe Saunders for all the belts. So let's say he beats Billy Joe Saunders at that point. I think he relinquishes his titles or some of his titles and goes about his career. Maybe he goes at the 168 to be a 2-division champion. I think Gennady Golovkin wants to stay at 160 his entire career. And maybe he just, becomes Floyd Mayweather of that middleweight division and picks and chooses his fights from there on. So basically what I'm telling you, it boils down to this. I believe it's up to the Gennady Golovkin mind state what he wants to do. I think if he beats Canelo, he goes and pays Jermall Charlo to step aside. WBC, middleman's that deal. He fights Billy Joe Saunders for all the belts, And if he beats Billy Joe Saunders, win, lose, or draw. If he wins, I say he wins. He drops all the belts. And he goes on with his career. He might keep some and just pick and choose the big fights that he wants at that point or moves up. If he loses to Canelo Alvarez and it takes his one, maybe, losing to Canelo, he get knocked out, get beat up real bad, or he have a Marvin Hagler moment where he felt like he beat Canelo this time and he's not getting in fair shake. He might just go into the shadows and retire. Either way, I don't see him fighting Jermall Charlo. That's the end result. I don't see him fighting Jermall Charlo. I don't think it's gonna happen the way Abel Sanchez sounded on several different occasions. I don't think that's a fight that they're interested in. And for Jermall Charlo's sakes, he's not going to get a chance to prove his worth versus Gennady Golovkin. And it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, it could be anything in between from neutral to good to bad. Could be. I'm pretty sure he want to prove his talents. He's a big, strong guy, a guy that legitimately can fight at 168. He's 6'2". Hugo Centennial Jr. is 6'3", so they some big middleweights. And he's looked like he got physically stronger, faster, and bigger moving up to middleweight. But we don't know because he fought a crippled guy with one leg, Jorge Sebastian Highland. So we don't know that right now. But what I can do is answer this question real quick. We'll keep going. Why is the super middleweight, 168-pound, only hosted at Super 6? What's the chance of another division doing it, and how does it work with the promoters being HBO? Okay, the World Boxing Super Series is by Keith Sutherland, whatever that guy's name from the UK. I'm gonna answer that in a minute. Yeah, he can prove his talent, but not versus a dominant factor who's known like Triple G. I'm gonna answer that question. But by Katie Sutherland and Richard Schaefer. Okay, this tournament alternates. It alternates divisions. It's not really supposed to stop until it hit the divisions, I guess. I mean, it's just gonna keep going. So basically what it is this. They tried to make the tournament at 154. They do 2 tournaments at a time. They tried to make it at 154. The 154 pounders didn't want to do it. They couldn't get the parties together to make that happen. So they turned themselves to cruiserweights. The cruiserweights were willing to make it happen. The super middleweights was willing to make it happen. The guys from PBC and Top Rank and all them guys, they didn't want to join the tournament. But now I heard they taking the tournament down to featherweight, I believe, and they want to get some of those guys in the featherweight tournament, which sounds like a good idea because Richard Schaefer just promoted, if that's true, he just promoted Leo Santa Cruz and Abner Mares card on Fox in separate bouts. So he just promoted that, and him and Al Haymon is cool. So you got Al Haymon, I believe, has Lee Selby, Abner Mares, Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell Jr. He has 4 guys right there. Probably some more. Carl Frampton as well as 5 guys. So, basically, that's a division that he can really make a tournament in that people want to see because he got 5 top guys he can put in a tournament. He can just add one more. He can get Rigondeaux to come in up there. He's already damaged goods. He's a name at this point. Or he can do anything. He can call Bob Arum and see if Oscar Valdez wants to get in a tournament. He can get JoJo Diaz, who's Gary Russell's mandatory. So it alternates. The World Boxing Super Series alternates. It might go to middleweight. As far as how it works is they're not getting American TV deals. So that's the hard thing about it. A lot of people don't want to put it on TV, until the semifinals and the finals. So we'll see how it does TV wise when it gets to the semifinals and the finals if American TV deals wants to pick it up. If not, it's gonna stay a European dominant tournament. It's gonna go where the European dominant guys are at, in each weight class, So, just be on the lookout for that. It alternates. But if you see them getting TV deals on Showtime, HBO, then you know the World Boxing Super Series tournament is gonna come to some divisions that we're familiar with people that we're familiar with, boxers. He can prove his talents by taking it versus. Yeah, he can, but the whole thing about him wanting to fight for Gennady Golovkin was the fact that he wants to take Gennady Golovkin's fan base. That's what it is. That's what Floyd did with Oscar. You know, he got the notoriety from beating Oscar. That was the passing of the torch, of the popularity torch, and that's what blew Floyd up. And that's what kind of Jermall Charlo wants to do with Gennady Golovkin. He wants to go to HBO, prove he can dominate that type of guy in that type of fight. Is it a? Now we can get into the potential matchup. Is it a tough fight for either guy? Absolutely. You know, Jermall Charlo doesn't have the feet that his brother Erislandy Lara got, and that's what I was trying to explain to people in a video I did quite some time ago. People think Jermall Charlo is the better fighter, but it's not really true. Maybe in the sense of an offensive fighter, if that's what you like, but in the sense of an overall craftsmanship of boxing, the 154 Charlo is better. And a lot of people got mad. You know, I said that, but people got mad because he had a hiccup versus Vanes Monterosian. But that was a wake-up fight for him. He left Ronnie Shields because they was beefing over money, and he didn't want to train in Houston. He wanted to get closer to Dallas. And Derrick James was able to put his imprint on him now. Now he's more of an aggressive fighter. Now people who follow boxing and follow the Charlo brothers, we remember when Box Nation was killing them, said we never want to see these boring guys again. And I think he heard some of that. And he got with Derrick James. And before he got with Derrick James, he fought like Lara. He was a guy that was he was more offensive than Lara. He was pretty much in the middle between Jermall and Lara. He was a guy that was a boxer puncher, a defensive wizard. He was a good counter puncher. He was a boxer mover. He gave up a lot of ground. That's the Charlo brother that just dismantled Gabriel Rosado before he took a lot of punishment in the sport of boxing. He boxed, he moved, he was twinkle toes, you know. And, you know, Vanes Monterosian was able to apply some pressure, who was a top U.S. amateur. A lot of people don't know. He was with Freddie Roach for a while. And he just never lived up to his amateur promise. But he was a boxer mover, and Vanes was pressuring him. So when he got with Derrick James, he became more of a planner. Now, we remember he fought John Jackson, a younger Jermall Charlo brother. He couldn't cut the ring off. John Jackson surprised him with movement that he never had before. So after that fight, they worked on cutting the ring off, and he's cutting the ring off just as well as Errol Spence and Gennady Golovkin now. Now, that's one of the lost arts in the sport of boxing, is cutting the ring off. No, Danny Garcia couldn't cut the ring off on Keith Thurman. That's why he was non-effective versus him. He couldn't cut the ring off Lamont Peterson. A lot of guys can't cut that ring off no more. It's kind of like body punching being a lost art. But Jermall is learning how to cut the ring off. He's coming more aggressive. His punching power is coming up because he's planting now. And if he needs to revert back to boxing and moving, he can. Now the other brother, I think he might be older Jermall Charlo. Now this is the issue with him. You know, his feet is good. We see him make a hell of a catch and shoot counter punch against Julian J. Rock and knock him down. Yes, he's more of a guy that wants to sit there and be aggressive and not move as much. Which one are you talking about? The one that's at middleweight Towns, the Charlo at middleweight. Yeah, that's a stupid question. I believe you're talking about him. But the thing about the older Charlo, the bigger Charlo, he's a little bit taller. Jermall is that's gonna work for him. Is the fact that he can move, but he doesn't move like the other Charlo in Lara. He's a little bit more a plotter a little bit, but he can move his feet. But that works for him versus Triple G. See, Danny Jacobs came in with the mindset that he didn't want to get knocked out. He wanted to play it safe, defensive circles, like Andre Rozier said. He wasn't aggressive enough. He only was hitting Triple G when Triple G was hitting him. It was tit for tat. Jermall Charlo doesn't have that in the back of his mind. He has never been knocked out, as far as I know, or knocked down. So in the back of his mind, you know, he's invincible right now. His chin is going to hold up. That's what he's thinking. And that could work for you, that could work against you. But he's thinking his chin can hold up. So he doesn't fear Triple G's power. He doesn't fear that. He doesn't have any moving runner in him like Danny Jacobs did. He don't have that in his DNA right now, you know. So he believes he could sit right there, you know, in the middle of the ring and banging out with Golovkin. You know, if Golovkin moves towards him, he feels like his power, his speed, and his ability will take over. Danny Jacobs didn't have that belief coming in with Triple G. He thought, like everybody else thought, that he was going to get knocked out. Please believe me, he fought like that. He fought very tentative and kind of scary a little bit. Even Kenny Porter said it. But once he got comfortable, he started sitting down and throwing bombs. And he said, man, I can hang with this guy. Even though after he got dropped, he said, I can hang with this guy. He got more and more confident in there. And that's what you seen Triple G get more and more less confident. So the difference is, did Danny Jacobs and Kell Brooks show people that Triple G was not a machine, not an Ivan Drago? Absolutely. But Jermall Charlo, it's not in his DNA to sell out and move the way that Danny Jacobs did. So either he's gonna go out on his face or his back, or Triple G gonna go out on his face or his back, or it's gonna be a dog savage fight. He believes in his ability. He's not going to move and give up ground as much as Danny Jacobs did early. He's gonna stay. He gonna believe behind his power and stay behind his speed and his power, and that's what be the difference. Did people get confidence by after Kell Brook and Danny Jacobs did it? Absolutely, people got confidence because it wasn't too many people that was calling Triple G out when he was knocking everybody out and he was looking invincible. It was two guys for sure I know called him out. Three. If you want to call out Andrade Ward, Erislandy Lara, and Demetrius Andrade was always calling him out. That's what lead me to answer his question. Charlo and Andrade, if he stay active, I don't know. Andrade's a top talent. I said it the other day. He should be what Terrence Crawford is right now, but more. He should have fought Canelo, beat Lara. I mean, he should have had a Charlo under his belt by now, and he'd be pound for pound number one. Moved up to 160, got a belt. I mean, he should be sitting on millions right now. But his inactivity, is killing him. I don't know if he can get that back, that prime back. But let's assume that he's at his best. And Jermall Charlo, I hope so. I hope the Panthers do. The defensive coordinator talking about being our head coach at for the Lions. I'm a Lions fan, unfortunately. But yeah, if let's say it's the best Charlo versus the best Andrade that I've seen, that's a pick'em fight, to be honest. But the thing about it is, I seen Andrade down. I know he got stretched. He got stretched by Vanez real quick. He's a fighter mover. I mean, he fought bigger, taller guys like Charlo. I mean, it will be, can he take Charlo's power? And I mean, that'd be a tough fight for me to call at their best. Right now, I would clearly pick Jermall Charlo due to activity. But if they both active, that's a tough fight to call. Andrade has great talent. I used to think he would easily take both Charlo twins, even if they tag team. But the Charlos have grown into the fighter that, Ronnie Shields envisioned, even though one of them not with Ronnie Shields no more. So, it is what it is. If I was Triple G after Canelo, I'd try to be great and fight Charlo, Andrade, and finish with Saunders. But the thing about that is, Mr. DX Factor 87 is, you could try to be great, but if he beats Canelo, right, why wouldn't you go to be undisputed? That was his whole point. He has to go for the undisputed championship. Now, if he loses to Canelo, yes, he had to do great to kind of show people that, he still is great even after Canelo lost. So if he loses to Canelo, yes, he should be great and fight those guys. But if he beats Canelo, I would not hold nothing against him if he was to pay Jermall Charlo off and go for the lineal undisputed championship fight in Kazakhstan versus Billy Joe Saunders, like they were setting up in June until Oscar told him, don't go make no other fights so you won't get the Canelo fight, which was stupid by them. But yeah, Jermall Charlo is gonna get knocked out, or him and Triple G gonna go knocked out. They gonna have a savage fight. Oh, if he lost to Canelo, yeah, he have to. I mean, unless he goes up, which I don't see him going up. I don't think he has the kahunas to go up right now. I just don't think he wants to go up. It's just not saying that he's scared. It's just no money there right now. Unless Ebanks Jr. wins that tournament or he fights the winner of the tournament. It's no money at 68 right now. We know Zerto been calling him out for a couple years now, but there's no money in him yet. But yeah, Charlo, that'll be a good fight. With a couple more fights on his belt. The things that he do well, he got a good jab. He's a good defensive fighter for the most part, but he's more offensive. He can be defensive. But he's not going to be moving in there like Danny Jacobs, you know what I'm saying? And Danny Jacobs is going to look back at that fight. He's going to look back at that fight and be like, he looked back at the Triple G fight and was like, dude, I know he left a lot on the table. He left a lot of punches and a lot of clean shots on the table, especially early on. Think Big Baby Miller will get a shot at Joshua. But, yup. Yeah, I was talking about that a couple months ago after he fought the Watt guy. He was supposed to have signed the Matchroom co-promotional deal, but I heard it didn't happen. So Big Baby Miller didn't sign the contract, from what I understand. But if he was to sign the contract and the performance was supposed to be impressive enough with Watt to him to get that contract with Matchroom USA, I don't know if he signed it or not. He was supposed to be Anthony Joshua's introduction to USA boxing. So that was supposed to be in plans. I don't know where it stands now. But if he's with Eddie Hearn, he's definitely gonna get a shot at Eddie AJ before Deontay will. But that is what it is. But yeah, man, I fear that if Gennady Golovkin loses to Canelo Alvarez convincingly, I think he's gonna do a Marvin Hagler or he get robbed. I think he's gonna just retire. I know his wife wants him to retire after, soon. She wants him to retire, come back home, soon. He tasted some money, a lot of money versus Canelo. He's gonna make some more money in this fight. Who's out there for him to make more money? He's not gonna be a big ticket puller the way Canelo is. It's just not the way the game's set up. He don't have a fan base. Not a lot of people do. He don't have a fan base. He's not gonna be that $1 million pay-per-view puller, even if he beat Canelo, in my opinion. What is Jacob's options now that everyone wants Triple G and Billy Joe Saunders because of the belt? Who does? To be honest, who does Jacobs fight next, man? I think I talked about that with somebody in private. Billy Joe Saunders ain't gonna fight him. He asked for $5 million. Danny don't generate that. Andrade and him. Andrade said he don't want to fight Jacobs because they're close family. Because of Andre Rozier, I think Jacobs used to train with Andre Rozier. Shevchenko, maybe he goes for the IBF mandatory number 1. I mean, what really makes sense is this. Rashid, is this. I'm gonna tell you these rankings right here. Number 1 in the WC middleweight ranking is Jermall Charlo. Number 2 is Canelo Alvarez. Number 3 is Danny Jacobs. Number 4 is Hugo Centennial Jr., I believe. He's 4 or 5. Now, you tell me what should happen. We know Canelo is not fighting for the WBC belt. I don't know why they keep ranking him. All right, so you got number 1 versus number 3. You got 2 Al Heyman advised fighters, 1 fighter with Matchroom USA that's on HBO. The fighter that's on HBO, which is Danny Jacobs, said, I got the Fight Hub interview. He said, Jermall Charlo can come to HBO. We can make it happen. Now, I remember Muzuma TV. Y'all go shout out to Muzuma TV. I think he out of Philly. Muzuma. I can't remember. MUZMA. I think that's his name. TV. He ain't been doing a lot of work lately, but he do some good work. On this particular night, Muzuma TV happened to be on Instagram and catch Jermall Charlo go live. Jermall Charlo dissed Philly. He was drunk at the bar. He was dissing Philly. He said he would knock out Danny Jacobs and Triple G. He did the video earlier last year. So he's down for the fight. He's down to fight Jacobs. Jacobs down to fight him. But Eddie Hearn and HBO don't want that fight to happen because of the money implications. They invested a 5 or 6 fight deal in Danny Jacobs. That's mandatory. That's guaranteed. He gets 5 or 6 fights on let's say it was 5, I think Andre Rozier said. That's guaranteed. So he got one out the way with Luis Arias. So he's guaranteed 4 more fights. What if Jermall Charlo comes on HBO and wrecks him? Even though he's not taking a belt back, he's taking a player that they invested in HBO. So if he wrecks Danny Jacobs, just hypothetically, then what HBO got to do? They got to pay Jermall Charlo top dollar or he can run back over to Showtime. So they got to pay another fighter another deal. They got to deal with Gennady Golovkin. They got to deal with Canelo. They got to deal with Triple G. I said Golovkin. They got to deal with Danny Jacobs. They got to deal with 3-fight deal with Demetrius Andrade. So they got deals tied up in fighters already. The last thing they need is another deal tied up with another guy. And another Al Heyman guy that's going to milk him again. So, that's tough. So, basically, it's not that Jacobs don't want to fight. It's the powers that be. And they echo down to Eddie Hearn like, nah, man, we ain't going to pay him again. He ain't even big enough. So, he's basically the odd man out. But, that's the fight that should happen. That's the fight that should happen. It should be Jacobs and Charlo in April or May or June. That should just be the fight that happened. Winner get Triple G. Funny you mentioned Jacobs and Triple G fight. I watched it again today, and it was close. I think the difference was Jacob left a lot out there. Yeah, when I watched it again, man, and yeah, man, Jacobs left a lot out there. I think he could. I was watching Kenny Porter talk about that fight. I'm gonna get to you and Rashid in a minute. I was watching Kenny Porter talk about that fight. I'm disappointed in Danny Jacobs. He said he left a lot out there. And when I thought about it, I said, you know what? Hey, I thought Danny Jacobs won, but I said, you know what? He right. Every time Golovkin would move his hands, Danny Jacobs would cover up and then move his hands when Gennady Golovkin was done throwing. He left so much body work out there, so much head work out there. So he left so much out there. I know he watched that film and just put his foot in his own butt. He left a lot out there. I guarantee. I'm looking at that fight. I rewatched that fight a couple times. I said, dude, if he was just more aggressive and didn't come with that scary stuff, he would have won. Charlo knows he's in line for the belt. I don't see him or his promoter letting Charlo take that any serious. No, that's not true. I mean, it's true, but it's not true. Charlo don't have a promoter. He's advised by Al Heyman. Now, Jacobs just got a promoter with Eddie Hearn, and he's still advised by Heyman. But it's really not a risk, because by the time they could fight, let's say they fight in June, what if Golovkin loses and, he retires and he releases the belt? Now they fighting for a vacant WBC belt. So, I mean, it is a risk, but I think it's a risk that Charlo wants to take. You know, I think it is because I mean, Danny Jacobs might not want to take the risk, but guess what? Danny Jacobs is not the mandatory to any of Golovkin belts. He was dropped in the WBA after he lost his regular WBA belt. He's not ranked. He's ranked high, but he's not the mandatory to IBF. That's Sergey Zinchenko. He's ranked high in the WBO, but he's not the mandatory to Billy Joe Saunders belt. Even though they would have faced it, they would have forced the fight to happen with him and Danny. He's not high enough ranked. So basically, you know, it'd be worth his while to be the mandatory. Now Charlo, yeah, he'd be losing something, his #1 mandatory status, but I think he's willing to put that on the line to gain people's respect and possibly to fight for a vacant title if Golovkin end up dropping that title. So. You know it is what it is. It's the Boxing Clinic. Any more questions, shoot them now. I'll answer them. Give y'all a couple seconds. Anybody got some more questions, man? We about to, get up out of here then. All right, we gone.